And welcome to the CPG-TV studios. I'm Nathan Lambert alongside Riley Price, and today we have an exclusive interview with the new varsity head football coach of the Wawasee Warriors, Matt Thacker. Welcome, Coach.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So, to get us started off here, let's get to know you a little bit.
Sure.
Tell us about your family and that.
I have a wife, Mary, son, Grant, and a daughter, Olivia. Grant's 21, Olivia's 19. They're at that time in their life where they're thinking more about themselves than anything else, which is fine. That's what it's supposed to be. So, they're excited to be here. I'm excited to be here, so ready to roll.
You know, are you from the area around here, or?
Originally, I'm from the southeast side of Indianapolis.
Okay.
So I would have gone to Southport High School there on the southeast side. And then eventually, being the spring of '94, I would have moved up to Warsaw and graduated from Warsaw in '95. I know that might hurt
Yeah, I was going to say that might start you off on the wrong foot here.
I know.
It's been a few years since then, so you can get better at it.
I mean, you've gotten rid of that orange stuff, right?
I have. Now, I did catch my wife wearing a Warsaw shirt when she was working in the garden, so I go, I don't know if you can wear that.
That's the dirty stuff. That's okay.
Yeah, yard work. I guess yard
exactly.
work. So,
did you play in high school?
I did. I played at Southport, and then I played at Warsaw for Coach Huber when he was there. Tore my ACL my senior year, and then I was out. I had some other injuries too going through high school. So had an opportunity to play at Manchester, ended up not playing. Honestly, and I tell the kids this, it's one of my biggest regret is not going ahead and playing college football and had the opportunity. I was scared to death. First one to go to school in my family, coming off an injury. And two, I wasn't a strong student. So being afraid, coming off an injury, whatever excuse you could think of, I used that and ended up not playing in college. So looking back, I wish I would have, and I use that story often to tell our kids that are kind of on the fence if they want to play college football or not. So.
And what position did you play? I
was mainly a defensive end, sometimes an outside linebacker, depending on what kind of defense we played, especially at Southport. At Southport, I also played every offensive line position and a little bit of tight end when I came up here to Warsaw. So mainly on the offensive and defensive line. So.
Well, as two fellow linemen here that both graduated from Wawasee, we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
That's good. O-line and D-line guys.
Yeah, so that's kind of your player history. Now to move into your coaching, you're taking on a new role. You're going to bring in new culture, new scheme. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts of the offensive scheme and how you plan to go about that.
Well, I think in high school football, you've got to be able to run the ball and stop the run. So offensively, at Fairfield, we instituted the flex bone offense. When I was with Coach Curtis, a little bit there at Warsaw, had the opportunity to go out to the Naval Academy and go to their practices.
And they kind of perfected that, right?
Exactly. And
That's pretty awesome.
I'm there at the Naval Academy, and I was bought into what we were getting ready to do at Warsaw, and I was at watching the guys at the Naval Academy. I mean, they were no bigger. Some of those guys were no bigger than we are.
Sure.
And I look at these guys right in the eye, and here these guys are playing Division I football, playing against Notre Dame. And they're doing it with the scheme that forces the defense to be disciplined. Mm-hmm. So we were, utilizing that same offensive scheme at the high school level, where you're forcing high school kids to be disciplined on defense, and all 11 being accountable for the responsibility. So, and we're going to apply that here. We were fortunate enough to have a scrimmage yesterday up at Northridge, and we were able to scrimmage them and Leo for a little bit. And you can see the possibilities, just breaking down film this morning, you can see the possibilities that our kids bring with the offense. So excited to see where it goes, excited to see our kids grow with it and mature with it. Very looking forward to what we can do defensively as well as far as stopping the run. And as long as we're gap sound and have gap integrity with our defense, we should be all right.
What kind of scheme do you run on your defense?
Defensively, I've always been an even front guy. Nothing against the odd front guys. I played even front all through high school, and I don't know if it's just a comfort thing. I just think that you're able to be more multiple on the back end with an even front. And you're able to be gap sound with an even front. At times, though, if your personnel dictates you need to do something else, then you need to do something else. So, but I like the fact that we can start off as a 4-3 type of a base look, but be multiple at the back end. And facing multiple teams in the NLC, you're going to face a team like Concord, who's going to spread you out but run the ball. Mm-hmm. So you're able to, you hope, you got your fingers crossed that you can manage that. And you got other teams that want to spread the ball out and throw it all over the place, where you can adjust your back end on that to help you with the pass game. And then you have teams like us and Mishawaka and Warsaw, they're going to run the ball down your throat. Well, we should be able to adjust to that and hopefully be physical enough to slow them down a little bit.
So back to the offensive side of the ball, what kind of blocking scheme does that take up front?
Well, it's a veer scheme. It's an inside veer scheme. We're not going to block number 1 and number 2. And our line isn't the most, I don't want to say the most physical. I think we are physical. You have to be physical in this offense. But we're not the biggest. And there's some.
You don't have those 6'6", D1
exactly.
athletes.
I mean, Leo had some guys that's like, oh my gosh, well, I'll take some of those guys. But the thing of it is, we're not going to block 2 guys on their defense, and we're going to try to get guys, into the second and third level and down the field. And when you do that, and when you see that, that's when we have those big runs when we get the ball pitched, or we run it on toss, or you see, the quarterback hit the alley vertical, and we got guys in front of him when we're running, wide open down the field. On the backside, it looks like we're running zone, but really we're just scoop blocking from the backside to the play side. Again, those guys' responsibility is to scoop and then get to the second and third level. When we have success, you'll see linemen meeting our running backs in the end zone because they should be at the second and third level. If you watch our film from Fairfield, you'll see many times that when we were successful, our linemen are not step for step, but right there with our running backs in the end zone. So, again, it creates defensive problems or discipline issues on the defensive end. But at the same time, when you run it correctly, it's a beautiful thing to watch.
And it makes people or kids make those decisions, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to make a split decision. It's basically trying to figure out an algebra problem on the run, physically on the run. So I didn't like algebra anyways, but if we can make an algebra, if we can make a high school kid do algebra on the football field at the same time, then
it only benefits you, right?
Exactly, absolutely.
So you mentioned on your defense, you're really going to be, physical. It has that 11-man mentality. On the offense, you're with the flex bone, again, physical, running down the throat. That talks a lot about your team culture. So in your mind, coming in as a new coach for this program, what is your ideal team culture and what does that look like?
To be a family, we've kind of changed our coaching staff went down to Harding University down in Searcy, Arkansas, and they were breaking down on a term called AVO.
AVO.
And I really didn't pick up on it. It was another coach from another state. He just asked, what does AVO mean? And I'm going to mispronounce this because it's in Latin. But AVO is Amor Vincit Omnia, which means love conquers all. Well, if we're going to trust one another, you got to love one another. So that's kind of what we're trying to get to. So if you hear us break down AVO, that's what it means. You got to love one another. You got to trust one another. And through the good and through the bad, things will work out. They may not work out on a game-to-game basis, but overall and in the end, that's what we're shooting for. And in the end, we're looking to create great young men for the community. Yes, we want great football players on the field on Friday night, but we want to create a culture where we have young men that are coming back and they're supporting the program, they're supporting the community. You see them at the grocery store, you see them at Pat's Chicago Dog or anywhere down here on Huntington Street, and that's what we want. Kids coming up and say, hey, Coach, how's it going? And not just to me, but to our assistants and other guys, and some of those guys coming back and helping us out coaching, And that takes time. But that's what you're shooting for, and that's the exciting part of developing a culture.
Yeah, you don't really understand how much trust in each other really helps you on the field until you don't have it.
Absolutely, and especially in an option offense. Our quarterback has to trust that, our offensive tackle is going to leave number one alone. It's not going to muddy his read. He's also got to trust that his H is going to be there for the pitch.
Right.
So there's a lot of trust involved, not only for the guy next to you, but the guy behind you, okay, the guys in front of you, the guys at your side, the wide receivers blocking downfield. So if we can get all 11 guys on the same page, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how this plays out in the season, honestly.
Me too.
So, Coach, you said AVO, but is there a slang or a motto that you're constantly telling your team?
Well, we bring our seniors together, and we picked this up from Coach Adamson down at Eastbrook, and we applied it at Fairfield, and we brought it here. And our seniors create our core values. And so we were going to have a cookout. It rained. We basically had a pizza party. But each senior takes a note card. They write down 5 words that they think describes this upcoming season. And whichever words come to the top are our top words or our core values for the year. And this year we have family, effort, attitude, selfless, and trust. Well,
That's a pretty good list.
That is a pretty good list. So it's those top 5 words. Well, Coach Zapes and Coach Osmolowski, they came up with the acronym FEAST. So if there is a slogan or anything like that for us here, our motto, it would be to feast. And with that is our core values of family, effort, attitude, selfless, and trust. So everything that we've talked about up to this point was pretty much hit on in those core values. And that's a pretty cool thing, being this early in the process of developing our culture and our program.
Yeah, coming in, you generally don't have, this much time to start laying down that foundation and that's got to prove dividends on the back end, right?
I would hope so. I was very pleased with, they're high school kids. Some of you don't think you have no idea. And sometimes you wonder if you explained it right or correctly.
And sometimes when you explain it, they still give you the same look either way, the deer in the headlight.
Absolutely. Sure. So, I was very encouraged by the words that were chosen and the words that were selected. So, excited to put those core values into play.
Yeah, I love the acronym FEAST. You can really, when I think of feast, I think of Thanksgiving dinner, sitting around with the family, just having a good time, talking, really just being together. Transitioning that to coaching, who would you say actually is your inspiration for coaching and really helps you be able to move forward?
Well, honestly, it's my father. My dad, he played high school football at Manual High School there in Indianapolis. And, everybody has their issues in their families, but it was one thing that my brothers and I and our dad had in common, and that was football. And, I had an injury in my sophomore year, and I was unable to play due to a back injury. And so I had a lot of time going to my brother's pee-wee practices, and my dad coached their pee-wee team. And so I'd help my dad, and originally it started out as I was just picking on my little brother, and but I was trying to help him, but at the same time I was being really pretty mean to him, and then so you fast forward to Friday nights, I was on the sideline with other players that weren't in the game, and I would say, hey, we're going to run that reverse that we ran 2 weeks ago against Terre Haute North or whoever it was, and then I would say, well, we're going to run this on defense. So that year of sitting out my sophomore year, I was like, hey, I kind of like this coaching stuff. I think I can do this. So fast forward to college, when I wasn't playing, got a hold of Brian Sprunger down at Whitco, and our first interview, I'll never forget it. Hey, I think I can get you paid was his first statement. I'm like, okay. I was just totally wanting to volunteer. And next thing you know, I was at Whitco for 3 years. And so Brian Sprunger is a huge inspiration as well, because, it was a smaller school. And but the whole, Coach Lopshire, Coach Booz, all those guys still mean a ton to me to this day. And just having the opportunity to be there for the short time that I was really kind of set the tone for me when it comes to high school football. And then, the coaches that I've worked with in the past, Rex Bowser at Lakeland and Keith Thompson at Lakeland, Troy Akers at Warsaw and Phil Jensen at Warsaw. And, Coach Curtis has been a huge inspiration. I decided to go to Fairfield, and he, to this day, we'll still talk. And, and then we even talked today here since I'm at Wawasee now. But, all of that, started with my father all the way up through Coach Curtis is, all those guys have had a big inspiration in my coaching career and life.
Yeah, it really seems like everything from at-home life to your father being your inspiration, everything just revolves around family and trust around here.
Usually does, especially in football, especially the game of football.
Three-part question here. What do you want your team's identity to be on offense, defense, and special teams?
Well, one, we're going to be physical, whether offensively and defensively. Special teams, I like to be aggressive on special teams. I mean, that's just a personal thing. Doesn't mean we always will be. It goes from a week-to-week, game-to-game basis. Sometimes we'll do things maybe a little bit out of the norm in special teams, but it's to try and get us an advantage. And we did an analytics study at Fairfield a couple of years ago, and a lot of those analytics where we thought we were doing the right thing actually proved to us that we were doing the right thing. For example, going forward on fourth down. I hate to punt. We have a punt team. We have punts set up, but we don't want to give up possession of the football. If you have possession of the football, well, they can't score. So,
and you control the clock.
And you can control the clock. So that's kind of what our identity is going to be offensively. We want to control the clock. We want to run the football. Again, be physical. And then defensively, we want to stop the run. Get after the quarterback when we have the opportunity to. Use our athletic ability, our speed up front to our advantage. But at the same time, we have to develop a little more depth there in order to maintain what we want to provide there on defense.
And not only the first quarter, but the last quarter.
Correct. And then in special teams, we want to keep, we want to, you hear the term in football, not in ways, you hear the term hidden yardage. So we want to win that hidden yardage, but we also don't want to be predictable. So, obviously we don't want to punt, so that kind of gives away what we'll do, what we may not do. But in the kicking game, we may kick it deep, we may pop it up, we may onside it. It depends from a week-to-week basis. If there's something that we see that we can take an advantage of, we're going to take advantage of it. And
again, it kind of makes those kids make those decisions, right?
Correct. I mean, again, you're dealing with making split decisions for a young man in a pressurized situation. And a lot of that still goes back to life. And not only are you trying to develop your own kids, but in the game of football, we're pretty much all brothers. Even when you go from a team to team, you're still a football brother. There's a brotherhood when it comes to football. So, I remember, I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole, but I remember, being with our teammates at Southport and Warsaw, and it didn't matter what you did or what you ran, what the score was. You still remember being part of a team, a family. So I kind of went around a rabbit hole on that one.
No, so. I think you got it, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So being the new coach in the block, one of the big struggles usually is just getting players, getting people bought in. What would you say to that kid who's on the fence about playing football here at Wawasee and how you can, nudge him in one direction?
Well, honestly, just give us a shot. Come out, see what it's about. I got a feeling you might like it more than you think. We've been able to talk to some kids and some kids that haven't played. They're playing this year, and hopefully we can get some more. So that goes back to just walking our hallways and recruiting our own kids. And that's, we'll continue to do that. I mean, if you don't recruit the hallways and you don't recruit your own kids, you're not going to get the kids. Right. So we've done that everywhere, whether I was a track coach, whether I was a football coach. always recruiting the hallways, always talking to younger kids, providing youth camps, providing opportunities in the spring and the wintertime for our younger kids, letting the, going to elementary schools, talking to kids, letting those kids know who you are. You can never get tired of talking to people, developing those relationships with kids, and sharing our philosophies on leadership and whatnot, things of that nature. So, as far as getting kids that are already here, or maybe they're juniors or seniors, why not? Give it a shot. That's kind of that's where we're at right now. So hopefully we'll be able to get the numbers up to where we want on a consistent basis. So
yeah, I resonate with that a lot myself. I would have never played football myself if it wasn't for my dad just pushing me one day. I played for 6 years and then went on to college and worked for the football team for 4 years, and now Nate and I are doing the radio. So
absolutely.
You never know what it can grow into.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a soccer player. Okay,
different type of football.
Different type of football. I was awful at it, but my dad's like, "Hey, you guys need to try something else." And so we started playing football, and all three of us have 2 younger brothers, but yeah, we all played football, and all of us loved it.
So in your short time here, you've said that you just got off of a scrimmage. What have been some of the coaches or players that have stood out to you?
Well, I think, all of our coaches have been sticking out. I mean, they stay after practice and we talk about, how the practice or the workout went. Coach Osmolowski, or kids call him Coach O, Coach Zapes, Coach Pinion, Coach Davis, who came down with us from Fairfield, and Coach Butler came down with us from Fairfield, and Coach Burris, one of our freshman coaches, and Coach Brenneman. They've been here very consistently. We have, a lot of other coaches, but, being a school and other guys working at other places, getting everybody here at once on a consistent basis during the summertime is pretty difficult. But all those guys stick out, and they all bring something to the table that each other maybe not as strong at, or vice versa. But I love the energy they all bring. They all provide great questions and provide great leadership for our kids. And that's number one. I'm not really worried about your football knowledge. Are you good for kids? And we've met that criteria with the guys that we have coming on board. As far as our guys in practice, I'm watching our film yesterday, and I'm watching the inside drill from our scrimmage. And a kid that I really hadn't noticed a whole lot, and it's my fault, but I noticed him yesterday or today watching film was Brody Young at our age. His motion is spot on. We have some techniques that we use to get our guys to go in motion and during the cadence, and his motion is fantastic. He has the right depth, he has the right spacing, and that's something he's picked up pretty quick. I'm pretty impressed with that. And a lot of guys are that way. But he stuck out. Now he didn't hit anybody. We didn't pitch the ball to him. But his technique from where he started at the left H to where he's supposed to be behind the fullback to where his pitch relationship was with our quarterback was spot on. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
That's kind of the small things that set up the timing for the whole offense.
Absolutely. And that's another thing. So that sticks out from last night. And there's some other things that stick out from last night, but I haven't been able to watch the entire film yet. And but I've really been happy with our seniors. Cooper Garden has stuck out. He can get after it up front. I like that. Has good feet.
He's one of those guys too that starts out so soft-spoken, and then he puts a helmet on, and you're like, yeah, you're going to go hit someone.
Absolutely. Addison Hatfield is the same way. If he gets his hands inside, you're not going to win. So he stuck out. Derek Morrison is stuck. He's got that length. I think he'll do a great job for us on defense at that anchor defensive end spot. We've kind of made some adjustments defensively. We took Dallas Miller from a defensive end and put him at the 3 technique. So now you have a kid that's not only tall and has some length, but he's pretty strong and he has some weight to him as well. and we're able to take Barrett Kelly and make him more of our rush in and just kind of let him go. And I don't say let him go as far as do whatever you want, but as far as getting after the quarterback, that's kind of the idea.
Hey, this is your job. Go,
yeah,
go get that football.
absolutely.
Go find your
I
gap.
mean, you're not, where he's at, he doesn't necessarily have to worry about contain. We have that with, the outside linebacker. So, moving guys around and trying to fit pieces together has been pretty cool to see. And I've been very, I got to be honest, I'm very excited. The guys have been pretty open to those changes. There hasn't been, to my knowledge, there hasn't been any pushback to it. And I think some of those guys got an opportunity to see that last night in the scrimmage because they did have some success. Now there's some schematic things that we can do to help them out, and there's also some technical things that they can do to help themselves out. And we'll watch that today in the film.
Yeah, coming in, the NLC is a difficult conference. You mentioned you scrimmaged last night, which is incredible, being that it's, June? Games don't start until August?
When you guys posted that, I was like, man, I know we're 2 months away from football, but that's quick.
Yeah, I'm not totally sold on the whole scrimmage 11-on-11 thing. It's difficult to tell a 17, 18, 19-year-old young man that, hey, we're going to blow the whistle and we're going to go thud. You're going to fit the guy up and not take him to the ground. I think that's very difficult to do. And I think if I was in the same shoes, or if we were in the same shoes, we would be in the same boat, But at the same time, it's great for our offensive guys, especially our quarterbacks, to be able to have some live bullets, get a live snap, and see what it's really about when it comes to reading number one and pitching off number two, or reading the three technique and trying to run midline. That's very important for them to see. The speed of the game, that portion of it, them seeing it, is a big help to them. Defensively, like I said, trying to tell a young man to not take a guy to the ground, even though you're in helmets and shoulder pads, and
you get a little excited when that
adrenaline running,
right? And that was one thing I took from our scrimmage yesterday. Our guys, they're not afraid. They're going to get after it. We just have to make sure we keep it in between the ears and not coming out the mouth. So we want to play here. We don't want to be up and down. So if we can keep our emotions in check, we should be a lot of fun to watch. Could be.
The conference is difficult. I mean, you mentioned Mishawaka, Warsaw, Northwood made a big run last year. Mm-hmm. What's a strategy you have to being able to compete with some of the other schools here in the NLC? Well,
first and foremost, I'm ecstatic to be back in the NLC. The NLC is a tremendous conference. Total respect for every coach in school in the conference. It's one of the top conferences in the state of Indiana, and it's an honor to be back in the conference. And it is a tough conference, but at the same time, if you're able to do some good things in our conference, you should be able to do some good things in the tournament. And Northwood's proved it. Northridge has proved it. Mishawaka's proved it. Warsaw has proved it. And we have that capability, but we have to believe in that capability. And at the same time, it goes back to our emotions and keeping those in check and being consistent on every play. All right, we have to have a next play approach. We can't be too high, we can't be too low. And that's what it takes to be consistent and compete in the NLC, because there are going to be low points. You're going to get the ball thrown over your head. They're going to have a long run. You're going to jump offside. So how are we going to respond in those times where you kind of question what's going on? And that's how you're going to be successful in the NLC, is if when those times do come up, how do you respond? Are you going to be positive? Are you going to take a step back and let that continue? So if we can, go forward and take a next play mentality and approach, we can challenge some people, I think. I hope.
I hope too, Coach.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate your time here doing this interview, and we wish you well in your 2024 season.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.